powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, it's Football at 4.
Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Adam Caplan is in the house today as we go inside the Eagles draft, plus a trade they made over the weekend. How do the new players fit in to the Eagles roster? We'll go inside the draft with Adam Caplan from Inside the Birds podcast as he joins us right now on the Sports Bash. Another edition of Football at 4 here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. There's Adam Caplan on a Monday filling in for Moshe. And, man, you got the home run spot here because the Eagles seemingly, Adam, had a pretty successful weekend.
Yeah, I did. You know, if you grade by team and so forth, if somebody puts grades in, I've got them in top 5, no doubt. And obviously, Mike, over time, you have to evaluate this and see how it goes and see you guys fit in. The good thing is you look at some of these players, they don't have to be rushed in. Nolan Smith doesn't have to be rushed in. Ringo, the corner in the third round and the fourth round does not have to be rushed in. And now other guys obviously are going to have some roles early on that are expected. But one of the things I like is, boy, do they address needs. We had them for like 7 pre-draft needs. You could come out of this draft, Mike, and say maybe inside linebackers the last one. That's how good of a job they did.
Well, let's take a look at some of the things they did and get your take on what we're hearing here. Let's go to the trade. Let's start there before we look at the picks. DeAndre Swift, they get him in the trade. Obviously, you know, this was one that a lot of people were looking at. Man, how were they able to get DeAndre Swift? Now, how does he fit? What kind of role? And what does this maybe mean for the other guys like Gainwell and possibly, you know, Boston Scott, Penny?
Yeah. So look, the Lions wanted a pick for next year. They weren't going to get it. No team wanted to give them what they wanted. So the Eagles and Lions got a compromise. The Eagles gave up a 2025 fourth round pick, and they gave up the better part of a 7th round pick, as you know, obviously a throwaway pick. But the Lions did what they had to do to move them. Once they made that decision, they were going to draft Jahmyr Gibbs. That was it for DeAndre Swift because he would essentially take his role as a passing down back. And that's really what Swift is. He's one of the better passing down backs in the league. He's got major problems with injuries. We know he's missed 10 games over 3 years. He's in the final year of his deal. No guaranteed money. He's not a guarantee to make the team, although I'd bet he would. To give up what they got, to give up what they did to get this guy, obviously they think he's going to make it and contribute. So what's his role going forward? Yeah, so you've got Gainwell, Boston Scott, Rashad Penny, and Trey Sermon. 5 guys most likely competing for spots. It's highly unlikely, but not impossible to keep 5 backs. They've done it before, but not very rarely. It's something that's not ideal, but the reality is they'll keep 4. If 4 are healthy, they'll keep 4. And you've got sort of a duplication between Swift and Gainwell, though Swift is a better football player. A former 2nd-round pick, yet another player from Georgia. It's really remarkable, Mike. It's the one offensive player you could look at and say, okay, here's a guy that's not a defensive player from Georgia over the last few years, but Swift, Swift is gifted. He's really good around the goal line. You saw in week 1 last year with that big play. The Eagles know the player very well, and he's pretty explosive. So you worry about the injury history. The Lions had given up on him, but he fits. They want their backs to catch the football, no doubt. That's why Sanders was benched in that role, and Gainwell got it. Now Swift has a chance to take the primary 3rd down role. He may not do all of it, but he has a chance to certainly take it.
Yeah, and obviously a guy caught the football, as you mentioned, really well, almost 50 catches last year. That adds another dimension to this team that Miles Sanders, you know, they just, for whatever reason, did not like him as a pass catcher. So we'll see if Swift really opens up another dimension to their offense there. Obviously, we go back to Thursday, and maybe one of the biggest stories of the draft was Thursday night and then the trade and them landing Jalen Carter. We know the off the field, that tragic event that he was a part of, the talent and the fit for this offense. So that's kind of why he's there and why the Eagles are able to make this move. So you have that kind of overshadowing a little bit the talent and the fit here for Philadelphia. Yeah,
I mean, look, when you talk about, are you talking about Gainwell here, or are you going to D-tackle? I'm sorry.
No, I'm talking about obviously Carter, landing Carter.
Yeah. Okay. So as when you talk about the talent and the fit, which is what you were talking about with Carter, they know all the off the field issues here. Okay, this is not a secret to anyone in the National Football League. All 32 teams know what the issues were. They know about the incident off the field. They know some of the run-ins that he had with teammates over his time there. There's been other reporting that not only Jeff and I on our show, but others have reported some issues with him. They're not isolated. There are other different things, but the Eagles felt that they got a lot of information, and they felt, I hate the word comfortable, they had enough information to feel like they could draft the guy. And by the way, the other thing is we didn't talk enough about this on our show this morning. But look, his pro day was bad. His March 15th pro day, he couldn't even finish, Mike. He was 9 pounds overweight. He physically couldn't finish it. He got cramps. That's not good. Now, the Eagles, they feel like they've got the right information on that one, and it is what it is. I mean, okay. So they have to answer this, but they feel like they understand it. Okay, let's go to the talent. It's obvious. People have asked me about Jerome Brown in terms of, yes, 3 technique, up the field, explosive. No doubt about it. There's similarities. Yes, I think it's fair to bring that up. Obviously, several decades ago, the late, great Jerome Brown played for the Eagles and was a number 99, by the way. That's what he wore. The fit is simple, 3 technique, who's a matchup nightmare for guards who are not fast enough. You can line him up over center if you want. You can line him up over guard. When they play their 3-man front, you can line him up at the 5. You play him at a 7. And also, look, he's – the thing is here, with Fletcher Cox does not have to play 50 snaps anymore, Mike. This is a huge deal. We didn't really talk much about that this morning on our show that dropped, but that's just one thing I thought of this season. He could, if they think he's ready with the technique, and by the way, if he's in good enough shape, Mike, and doing what he's supposed to, he and Cox would just split snaps, which I think, quite frankly, would be ideal.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is this guy going to come right in and become an impact player in terms of making teams focus on him? Is he going to have that kind of impact right off the bat? Because last year Jordan Davis was more of a rotational player. This guy, you would imagine, is going to have more of an impact as a rookie more of a role than Davis did.
Oh, 100%. Well, before Davis had the high ankle sprain, yes. And here's the thing. Look, the other thing he can do, he's really not a nose, but there are certain formations depending on what – this is the great thing about this. His draft pick, if he's ready to roll, okay, in September, if he's in shape, doing what he's supposed to do, there's certain fronts that they can use. There are fronts where you can put Cox and Carter on the field at the same time. It doesn't have to be your natural 3 technique, natural nose, and on with Jordan Davis on the other side, his former teammate at Georgia. There's just so many things you can do. And well, look, obviously we're in the first week of May here, so they haven't even practiced yet. They have the rookie minicamp, by the way, coming up. But there's just so much we can do. We cannot wait to get to that because they don't have a mandatory camp because of the agreement between the head coach and the players. They're the first team to be done. But we'll get access to see some stuff early, and we'll give that back to you.
Yeah, obviously Jalen Carter, many people had him as the number 1 player in this draft. The Eagles get him at number 9. Now, some people thought if they stayed at number 10, Nolan Smith was a possibility there. Why did he drop?
Yeah, it's really interesting, Mike. I've asked, I've thought, I've pondered, and this is what I've come up with. Two major things. He had a torn pectoral muscle from last season, but that shouldn't have been it. Because this is not a second-round pick, only 4 years. He has 4 years plus a 5th-year option, so that you throw that out the window. The big thing is he's sort of a tweener. He's really not at this level of defensive end. Could you do it? Sure. And he's over 6'2", but he's only 238. You want your DN to be a minimum of 245 to 250 at this level. So he's going to play outside linebacker. He's stand-up outside linebacker. Our friend Greg Cosell from NFL Films did tell us there were some plays where he lined up at inside linebacker. Not many, but man, coaches love if you can find a guy who could play inside linebacker, even if it's 5 plays a game at blitz, a rush that way. Boy, that gives you extra value. But his future is a stand-up outside linebacker, and he's explosive. And the hope is, over time, Mike, over a year or two, maybe gets up to 245, 248. So that's why he dropped.
Yeah, so he obviously goes to number 30, so they get another pass-rushing guy from Georgia, by the way, which was another theme of the weekend. Let's get into round number 3 with pick 65. Tyler Steen, an interesting Alabama. Tyler Steen, Alabama guy that I guess will he play – will he be in play for that right guard position that we all kind of think, Adam, is open at training camp?
It is open, and it's going to be three-man race at right guard. And, yeah, he's never played guard before. He's been a left and a right tackle, but he'll learn the techniques. He's a pretty smart kid. He tested well, we're told. I would put him as the odds-on favorite. It's not a lock. He's got to go win it. It's wide open. To answer your question, look, we talked to some other teams that had a lower grade on him. I always defer, as Howie Roseman would, to their offensive line coach. If Jeff Stoutland likes him, it's good enough for me. It's not so much what other teams think; it's what the Eagles think. And as long as he starts, it's absolutely worth a third-round pick, just like Isaac Seumalo was in 2016.
Yeah, so there you go, Alabama. They go Georgia, Alabama, and then another pick. They got this pick from this John Gannon situation, which was kind of bizarre that we saw happen right before the draft started. Yeah. Sidney Brown, Illinois, the safety here, and I guess, what's his fit and potential role? I mean, is he a guy that competes with Blankenship and Edmonds for a starting spot?
If he doesn't start, Mike, this season, I know this is strong to say for a third-round pick. He had second-round grades from the Eagles. He had second-round grades from other teams. He just dropped to the third pick overall in the third round. This is a universal scouting staff pick. Everybody, this is similar to in 2018. The whole scouting department was in unison. This is their guy, Avonte Maddox, and this is their guy, Sidney Brown out of Illinois. More of a post safety. You could drop in the box. He could. Well, actually, it depends who you speak with, Mike, to be honest with you. And here's a good thing. The tape showed he could cover tight ends because he did it. He's not really not a slot safety like his former teammate, Jartavius, the kid that was drafted. The name escapes me, right? I think it was Jartavius Murray. I'm going to look at his name up real quick here. Yeah, it was Jartavius Martin. I'm sorry. He was the second round of Illinois. He's a better football player because he has positional versatility to cover the slot and the outside. This kid could cover tight ends, there's no doubt. Tape shows it. And Brown could hit, and he's a leader, and he's a big-time tackler, Mike. Boy, tackling every once in a while last year, particularly with Gardner Johnson, was not good enough. This kid could hit, and he's a leader. This is good. This should be a very good draft pick.
Yeah, he was an interesting guy, and, the Eagles obviously have an interesting situation at safety. Nobody that's really definitively a starter at that safety spot. So a third-round pick,
True.
Sidney Brown, could jump in. Then Kaylee Ringo, Georgia, another Georgia player. How much you and I talked about, they got their starters out there, but what happens if one of those guys get hurt? Would Ringo be an answer as a long-term possibly starter here?
All right, it's a good question. So, Mike, quickly here, Greedy Williams, as of now, would be projected to be the third outside corner. Ringo the fourth. Zach McPherson should, I would assume he'll make the team as special teams only, unless he beats out Ringo. One of those two guys would be inactive or only play on special teams. It just depends how training camp goes. But Ringo was drafted. The Eagles had third-round grades on him. He was drafted because they think down the road, down in future years, he could be a starter on the outside. He's long. He's got lower body stiffness. This is why we're told by multiple sources he dropped to the fourth, but again, had third-round grades.
All right, so there we go. That is really the first four rounds. Those are guys that you look at that contribute to the team potentially this year. Let's look at round 6. They went with a quarterback with Tanner McKee out of Stanford. How does he fit? You got 4 quarterbacks on this roster now. He would be the fourth.
Yeah, he doesn't fit their mold. Like the other 3 could run. He doesn't run at all. He can't really move. Strong arm, big kid, smart, processes well. Yeah, this is definitely not what we were thinking. We had noted that they liked the UCLA quarterback that went to the Browns, I think, in the 5th. But the thing is, you like the arm strength. He gives you something different. You had Dorian Thompson-Robinson, we're told the Eagles really liked a lot, but he went in the 5th to Cleveland. So, yeah, Tanner McKee is a kid that's got size, and he'll have a chance to push for roster spot. But most likely, Mike, it'll be hard because teams don't keep 4 quarterbacks. In fact, few of them keep 3 anymore. So it'll be hard for him. But if he clears waivers, at the end of training camp or at the end of the preseason, it's a guy I could certainly see in a practice.
All right, Adam Caplan, everybody here on the Sports Bash. And, of course, Football at 4. Check out the Inside the Birds podcast where they go through the entire Eagles draft and weekend. Adam, appreciate it, man.
All right, man. Thank you.
All right, Football at 4 here on the Sports Bash. There you go. A look at the Eagles draft.